Hello everybody, today we're making a goth fake terrarium for Valentine's Day. The things you'll need is a jar, a bowl to stir with, a stick to stir with, and sand, glue or resin, and a bunch of fake plants. I don't end up using all the fake plants in this video. Whatever I don't use in this video, I'll use in my next video. I did not record the process of making the crow skull because I didn't know how it turned out and I didn't know if I wanted to use it in the first place. Some rocks out of the backyard and some scissors, pliers, a lot of more fake plants. If you'd like to check out my last video, I ended up making this beautiful terrarium, but I accidentally did call it a fake ecosystem. I do apologize. I did some research and I was wrong. But let's go ahead and get started, guys. So today, right here, I have the skulls that I made that I explained that I didn't know how they would turn out because it's my first time making them. But the clay is craft foam clay that you can buy at the Dollar Tree. And everything in this video is from the Dollar Tree. So you can buy everything from the Dollar Tree or any craft store. So I ended up mixing yellow and white, and a lot more white in this video to make an eggshell color for the skulls. So I'm going to go ahead and stop talking so you guys can watch me stir it and start painting. I did end up losing a lot of the footage of me painting these skulls. I only ended up using one skull for this terrarium, but I'm going to use what footage I do have for this video of me painting the skulls. And I'm going to have to get every nook and cranny with this paintbrush. I end up doing at least, I think, 2-3 layers of white paint. So it covered up every little, like, purple from the clay. And now we're going to use some black paint. We're going to do like the beak, the eyes, a little bit of detail. I do end up mixing later in the video some white, some brown, and some black to make the shadowing for certain areas to make it look more dirty and realistic. Even though it's not real, and it's just made of foam. But you're going to use probably like the finest paintbrush you can find to do the inside of the nostrils, the beak, and the eyeballs. So I take another kind of fine paintbrush, and it has like these little, like, I don't know, broken ends of the brush where they fray out to make it look like the beak is fraying outwards. I don't know how to explain that like fading a little bit into the skull like it naturally would if it wasn't a complete bleached skull. But that's what I ended up doing right here, and it's okay to mess up. You can always cover it up with the eggshell color and try again, because I did do that a couple of times, because this is my first time making a crow skull out of clay, so I've never done it before, and it's like a learning process for me. Before I'm done with the crow skull, I do end up covering it in spray-on Modge Podge. I didn't know that was a thing, but you can buy it at Walmart. Dollar Tree sometimes sells spray-on Modge Podge, but sometimes doesn't. You can also use the jarred Modge Podge, but that's how you finish it off so it can dry and then it'll be done and ready. But I forgot to mention that, but you can buy all of that at the Dollar Tree. It depends on which one you go to, though.
Every day, the past is where it stays. Way back a year ago, I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine.
This is where I mixed all those other colors together, the black, the brown, and the eggshell, so I could make the shadows. And I ended up using a paper towel that's wet with it and just like put it on there. I do end up using my fingers. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but that's what I do. It's not the best way to do it, and I end up like tapping it off to clean it off a little bit with the paper towel, and then some water to blend it a little bit more just to make sure it's just out of the way. And then I'm going to go in with the eggshell again and fill in places that I don't want to have shadows.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays. Way back a year ago.
So my camera died. I ended up using my phone, and I take another textured paintbrush, a fine textured paintbrush, and I'm like tapping the eggshell paint on the top to give it like a bunch of texture, and then I tap it off so it looks more like a skull texture. Alrighty, right here we're going to go ahead and start making the terrarium part. The jar, I do end up opening it, and we'll move the lid off to the side, and we're going to peel off the sticker off the bottom, because I did not do that before starting this video, and you'll see me struggle. I am so sorry. I tried to edit that out, but for some reason it wouldn't edit out. Because my video editor sometimes doesn't want to do what I want. But here I am struggling, and I decided to try to scrape it off, but I did figure out how to get it off later with coconut oil. And I don't know if you could tell that I cropped that out and added it in where it was off at some point. Yeah, that's where I added coconut oil and I got it off, but didn't know if you could tell. But we're gonna put the jar off to the side. We're gonna figure out what we want, but right now we're going to mix the black sand with the glue. And when you mix the sand and the glue and you're done mixing it and everything's done in the video, you will have to leave the lid off for 2 days to let the glue and resin dry properly. So you don't want to put the lid back on when you're done making this whole thing. But make sure you cut open the bag instead of trying to rip open the bag, because I tried that before and it exploded everywhere. This is just what your preference is with the sand, how much sand you want, how much glue do you want. I ended up making like 4 batches of sand to put into this jar, and the last batch had more glue than the last 3 batches because I needed it to be extra runny. So this is me pouring in some of the sand back in because I put too much in the container and I'm struggling, of course. It was 3 in the morning when I made this video. 2 or 3 in the morning, something like that. And I'm so sorry about the lighting. We're gonna add the glue. You're gonna see me struggle opening the glue because I forgot to take the little black cap off of the glue that I put on there to keep the glue from drying. Because I'm a goof. And we're just going to pour as much as we want, stir it all in, and then we're going to pour it into the jar. But when you go to pour it into the jar, please make sure you're pouring it in the center of the opening so it doesn't get everywhere. And then level it out with the stick, or like gently tapping it on the table to level it out. So we're going to go ahead and grab the plants that we want. I do end up picking and choosing what I want and changing my mind a lot in this video. It's just what you prefer and what you think would look really pretty. And right here I'm trying to decide what I want to do first and what I want to use. I do end up putting a wire back into this plant, and I have to take out my needleless pliers, cut it. They are a little rusty. They accidentally got left outside, sadly. I do end up buying new ones. But I'm going to shove the wire at the bottom of this plant so when it gets put in the jar, it sticks to the sand, which is covered in glue or resin, and when the glue or resin dries, the plant won't move. I'm trying to also decide where I want the rocks to sit. And these rocks, the big one has a fossil in it, the little one has a crystal in it, and the smallest one has a seashell fossil in it. So they are fossils. I did find them in my backyard. I looked at them later and I was like, oh, cool. So I didn't notice that they were like that at first. I don't even know if I mentioned that earlier in this video. It is really late while I'm making this recording. So we do end up like mixing the bubble out of that glue pile you see. Now we're going to go ahead and add some moss. And with this moss, you can add water to it to give it more life, but it will take longer for your fake terrarium to dry, which I didn't do. I didn't let it sit in water or anything. I just stuck it in there on top of the glue and the sand. I just shoved it in there so it would stick. And put as much as you want. You don't have to put a bunch. You can put a little. You can put none. Whatever you would prefer. This is what I wanted to do, and I ended up adding a lot of the moss that I had, and I'm almost out. Which is perfect, because then my next one will have less moss than the other ones I've made. So right here we're going to put the rocks in, and I'm trying to decide where I want them to sit. I know I want them to sit next to the glass, but I don't want them to be too close to the glass or too high, too low. So I'm trying to figure out which position. And this is when I noticed that one had a crystal in it. So I was like, oh, let's have the crystal face upwards. And we're going to go ahead and take the fake plant, shove it into the sand, and you got to apply a lot of pressure to get it to stick. So I have a bunch of these little flowers that I did cut off, and I stick them next to the hen plant, fake hen plant, and put it in there next to that. And a lot of these plants aren't actually going to grow together in nature. I am just using what I had, and these are all fake plants anyway, so it works out. And so here I am trying to decide what else I want to use, and with this one, I couldn't figure out if it was wire or there was no wire, but I did end up finding out there was no wire, so I cut it with the scissors, which was a lifesaver because I didn't feel like fighting with a wire. So I'm trimming about 4 or 5 off, and I stick them in there as a little bundle, like a little bouquet, and I just shove them in there next to the hen plant. It's a hen. I think it's called hen. It's been so long since I've worked with succulents, so I kind of lost all the terms for them. But yeah, I make a little bundle, and then I shove them in there on the right side. And these are these cute little purplish pink flowers that I thought would help the colors pop. And they got this like white coating on them where it's like really pretty. And so I do end up grabbing the rock and moving it over a little bit more because I wanted more space. And I'm just adjusting them more. I added another one because it would be filling in one of the gaps that were right there. There was this really big gap that I didn't want. So I was like, let's put that there. And another one to fill in another gap because I did not like the gaps. There were too many. So that's what it kind of looks like. And then I just pushed them down into the sand a little bit more. And the rock, I decided to turn around, and then I'm going to stick like a clump of moss underneath. I don't know if I've already did that. I might have. But I was going to stick these little blue plants next to the white ones and next to the hen and see if they could make the colors pop more. See how it's like in the sand? I just shoved it like right into the sand. I'm going to put a couple of them there behind the white plants because they're taller, and I like the way it looks when there's tall plants in the background, shorter plants in the front, and it gives it more of a texture thing going on. So these ferns, I bought a bundle of ferns, then I cut up into several different sizes, and I also cut some of the leaves off to make a stem so they could stick down into the sand. And I did that with a couple of them, and then I stuck them in there. And you can add or take away as much as you want.
Losing time, I'm fading fast. I just wanna make it last. Try to let go of the past. I close my eyes, embrace the blast. Sleepless nights and headaches stack. Restlessness to hell and back. What's my purpose? What do I grab? A slippery surface, a heart attack. And sometimes you just gotta believe there's something that'll give you relief. There's something that'll have what you need.
So I take the ferns and stick them behind the hen and the white flowers and the blue flowers. And I made it where it was like growing up behind them in this neat little branch type thing going on. And I loved how that looked. So I added like one behind the pink flowers / purple, and I use my scissors and shove it down there. I ended up putting it in a different position because I was going to leave it there, but I changed my mind. And I shoved it down below. And I keep picking and choosing and like changing things. See how it's all in the sand? And then I take my scissors. I did have a pair of like pliers at one point, like little tweezers and stuff to move stuff around, but I lost those. So I'm using my scissors to stab stuff into the sand. This plant I did not end up using in the video. I didn't like the way it looked, didn't like the way it sat, so I did not use it. If you want to use one in yours, you can if you want to, but for some reason I didn't like the way it looked. I worked so hard cutting these. It was apparently very difficult. I kind of wish I cropped them a little shorter so they could like stick up behind the pink flowers, but I just didn't. I decided I just was like, no, this is going to be a part of it anymore. I'm just going to do something else.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life.
And this is where I'm adding more moss to give it like more like something to lean on, the rock. And here's the crow's skull when it's done being modge podged, painted, everything. And I'm trying to decide what position I want to put it in before I put the wire in the bottom of the skull to make it stick into the sand so it doesn't move and go around and flop around everywhere when you carry this. So I gotta figure out what position I want, what would look best before I make a final decision. And the wire, I did end up cutting both ends of the wire and make it nice and short and shove it in the bottom of the skull. Since it's made of foam, it makes it a little bit easier to put in there. I did put a little bit of glue on the bottom of the skull when I moved the skull out. Did not show that. Sorry guys. But I just basically used like hot glue
They wanna say they hate, but they know it's cap. I ain't playing no games, I just do the fact.
Or you can buy hot glue at the Dollar Tree too.
I go crazy, nah bitch I ain't lazy. Track after track, I work on the shit daily. Pass me the jack, right as fuel, got me hazy. About to unpack all these things I've been chasing. I've got visions in my head, like memories after death. To be a legend instead of something you can forget. I'm living up every breath, I'd rather lead than be led. I'll fill the seats as I spread, with every word that I've said.
I do end up adjusting it a little bit more and trying to figure out what would be best. But the final results came out amazing. I love how it turned out. I do end up adding some more moss, and the moss going behind the chick, or the hen plant, because I'm trying to hide the wire that was sticking out, that was going down into the sand. So I ended up using my scissors to shove it down there because I had a hard time using my hands. My hands are too big for this jar, so I could barely even fit my hand in there in the first place. So I ended up using the scissors. I tried very hard to use my hands and it just didn't work out. So I'm just shoving it down there, making it look nice, and trying to hide the wire, trying to fill in the rest of the details. I know it said it before in the video, but when you're done, just leave the lid open for a couple of days so it can dry, and then you can put the lid back on. I did decide not to put a light on the bottom of the jar's lid, because I was going to put one of those little like LED push button lights, or the changing color LED lights that you can buy at Dollar Tree. I changed my mind because she ended up putting it on the shelf, and the way the light hit it made it look beautiful, so I did change my mind. But this is where I finished adjusting, and I put the lid back on it once it was done so I could take pictures. This is the end of the video, guys. I hope you loved the video.